We had to do it. We had to give it to you. We done emergency pods. Now the bonus pod today, we're going to be talking about the Kemba Walker trade. Came out of nowhere. I guess you can do trades now. We knew this, but it rarely ever happens. Luka Doncic played for the Slovenian national team.
He's back, baby.
He's back.
He's back, baby.
He's back. We'll get into that. Talk about all kinds of things today on a bonus Locked On Mavs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. Enjoyment isn't the end game, Isaac. It's the whole game. 2.6 carbs, 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com. The trading titan, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Dirk Nowitzki is back. Let's go! Man, he's back. He is back. No, honestly, if there's ever a better time for Dirk Nowitzki to come back to the organization in an official role, he's obviously been around the team and stuff, and he hasn't been gone too long, but he's back.
He's been around the team, but let's be clear, he's been away for these last 2 years.
Yes.
He has not necessarily been at practices and here and there. He's come to what, 5 games or less.
Yeah, I meant been around the
because
team.
Of the pandemic.
Yeah, playoff, just this playoffs over the past few weeks, past month. But yeah, you make a good point. Since he's retired, he's been traveling. He's been pretty much away from the team. Who knows how much involvement, talking with Mark and whoever's in charge. But it's so good just to feel his presence back in their organization. Now, I think a lot of fans can say. And fans are already doing it, is this a PR move by Cuban? Is this hey, this is the one move you can't criticize if you're a Mavs fan? But however you feel about anything else right now, it's good to have Dirk Nowitzki back.
And it's good to have a voice like that. He's been around. He knows people. He's been in locker rooms. He's been, now he's on this side of it. I mean, he has been around. He's been around Donnie Nelson forever. He's been part of these front office meetings. Meetings probably. He's been just around and involved in some of this stuff. Talk about institutional knowledge after losing 2 guys in Donnie Nelson and Rick Carlisle that had decades of institutional knowledge for the Mavericks. Dirk has probably just as much, maybe more than those 2 guys, institutional knowledge about the Mavericks. So today on the podcast, I want to get into, for the Mavericks, is it chaos or are they moving forward? Because I think for some Mavs fans, there's this trepidation, there's this worry, there's this frustration that is my team in shambles. We kind of did the it is fine meme on our YouTube video. I don't know if you watched our emergency pod, and it's a little bit in jest because these moves aren't necessarily shocking to us. They're not super surprising to us. But I can imagine for a lot of Mavs fans that these moves, Donnie Nelson leaving and Rick Carlisle at the same time, just floored you, just absolutely shocked you. I had texts, I had DMs, I had a bunch of people just reach out and say, what is going on? What is happening? So let's get into that first before we do the trade or anything else. Is this chaos or are they moving forward? And for me, they're moving forward in some ways. They had to make some kind of change. And I think there's a couple of benefits. And we try to stay positive. Let's stick with some of the benefits. I think there's benefit to changing Rick Carlisle and Donnie Nelson in their roles. I think that you can move a franchise forward. Now, can you also take a step back? Sure, you can take a step back depending on who you decide. But I think especially in the free agent acquisition area that the Mavericks have struggled in the last ever, right? How many times have we talked about getting the big fish and missing on the big fish? And sometimes that benefits the Mavericks, but still they have struggled to get big time free agents. And from all the talk about Rick, I think there's a chance there that Rick may be one of those problems. He's worked with players and had problems with certain players. Obviously the Rondo thing. Rondo's a guy that gets around and talks to a lot of people, right? He gets around and talks to a lot of people. And I bring this up maybe Rick didn't detract from free agents, but I can probably say that he for sure did not like entice free agents to come to the Mavericks, at least not big name free agents. Now today, Tristan Thompson came out and gave a huge endorsement of Jamal Mosley as the coach of the Mavericks, right? Like another player on a different team. Now, this guy might also be a free agent and he might be off of the Celtics and be on the Mavs soon if that's what he wants. But that kind of endorsement does not happen for Rick Carlisle, right? But it'll happen for a Jamal Mosley or somebody else.
Well, I'm so glad I was about to interrupt you if you were going to move past this point, but I'm glad you stopped at this point. A lot of times over the years, and now I won't say now we can say this that Rick's gone, but a lot of times over the years when we've talked about the big fishes that Dallas has missed on, we want to, kind of gravitate towards what did Cuban do wrong or what did Donnie do wrong?
Well, there's the obvious that Mark Cuban was on Shark Tank when he was supposed to meet with Darren Williams, right? Like that was a public story that was very obviously, if Mark Cuban would have been there, they probably would have got Darren Williams. Now looking back, you're like, oh, what would Darren Williams have done? But still, like that is a very obvious example where there's not as many for, hey, Rick Carlisle, Donnie Nelson, etc.
Yeah, and what I just feel like they have been the natural targets for a lot of fans over the years of why the Mavs have missed on free agents. And the whole time I'm like, man, there's another common denominator in that has, if we're talking about the person that all the star players are going to interact with the most on a day-to-day basis, it's the head coach. And it's not hey, I'm going to dump everything on Rick Carlisle, but it's the whole story of
it's a factor.
It's a factor because he's not the easiest person to have a relationship with at times. I mean, Tim McMahon has been on 3 different ESPN pods over the past few days, and he's reiterated that same point over and over again, not just with Luka Doncic. The one he did with Zach Lowe was so telling because that was before Rick even stepped away, and he was talking about how tense that relationship was. And he even brought up a name that I forgot all about was Rick's turmoil with Darren Collison. It's like we've been talking about Rondo and Jason Kidd. I forgot about Darren Collison, and there's examples with Pistons and Pacers days that we've talked about. So that has been a underlying thing that really nobody really throws out there when it comes to the free agent stuff. So does that mean that if they hire Jamal Mosley tomorrow that they're getting the next biggest fish? Kawhi's coming. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that I don't know if players were chomping at the bit to come to Dallas because of Rick Carlisle.
They're not Chauncey Billupsing at the bit, right? Or is that Chauncey Bitsing?
But it was what? But I'm saying this. He is well respected around the league for how smart he is. Like you've heard players and analysts and other coaches just like rave about, oh my gosh, the smartest coach. Like he's one of the most brilliant minds. But when it comes down to it of a player picking what team he goes to, it's not always the smartest coach in the room. It's not always all this. It's, man, who's the coach that I want to play for? Who's the coach that's going to be there in my corner all the time and to help come alongside of me and be a player's coach? And that was just not always the reputation for Rick Carlisle.
Nope. That is absolutely for sure. So, let's talk about Dirk now. Let's move on a little bit from this.
We didn't even say the role that Dirk was going to play in the opening segment.
It was our start, and then we went into the chaos question. Dirk, according to Mark Stein, former Maverick star Dirk Nowitzki. It's funny how he has to qualify like who he is, right? Like you can't just say Dirk; it has to be former Maverick star. Tells the New York Times Sports that he is rejoining the organization as a, quote, special advisor. Dirk's first assignment at request of Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, assisting the team in its search for a new head of basketball associations and then a coach. We knew that was going to be the order for sure. Mark Stein continues and said after just 2 seasons of retirement, Nowitzki, who turns 43 on Saturday, is holding off on taking an everyday role with the team, but he tells New York Times that after the departure of Donnie Nelson and Rick Carlisle, he's assisting Cuban on Dallas' search processes and said this: Mark approached me and asked me to help out, and of course, I said yes. Anyway, I can help my Mavs, I'm in. Love that. My Mavs. Any way I can help, I'm in. He's in there. So he's in this advisory role. It seems like him and Finley and a couple other former Mavs and people are coming in to try and figure out the direction of this team, which goes to our question, is it chaos or is it moving forward? And let's get into it. Is this a PR move for the Mavericks, or is this an actual tangible thing they're trying to do to actually move it forward, create some progress out of this chaos, right? Like, can a phoenix rise from the ashes of this week that we just had?
Well, even in his release statement, he says Donnie Nelson, Rick Carlisle were both mentors of mine. They played huge roles in my career and success of this franchise. I'm going to miss them. So he honors them in that. But like you said, he said it's important for me now to join Mark and contribute as much as I can as we move forward as a franchise. And that's how they're viewing it. But I'm just going to be very blunt and very honest with you. I don't think we can answer that question now. I don't think we can say they've moved forward or they're moving forward or anything, because I love Dirk. I love that he's in this role. I want him in this role. They need him in this role, but nothing changes. They could bring in Barack Obama tomorrow and nothing changes until we know.
Yes, we can, Isaac.
Until we know, where's Vulgaris? Like, what is his role? Is he going to be back?
Yeah.
Because we don't know anything if they're moving forward or not.
That's the biggest PR hit the Mavs are taking right now. And
until we know Haralabo's like role moving forward, because it's just like Woj said on his podcast today. Woj said there's no other GM executive in the league. Like, the job's enticing, but he said nobody of stature is going to come into this Dallas situation and take this job if they don't have assurances that Haralabo is gone. Yeah. And McMahon was very clear on that part of saying, and we're referencing McMahon because he's one of the people he knows what's going on with Dallas, of saying he doesn't expect Haralabo to be back. He doesn't think there's any world that he could be back because of his relationship with Luka and then his like overstepping of whoever the new guy is. So that for me,
just
it's
stay in your corner and crunch your numbers, man. Like, come on, really. Just
so for me, it's like I saw the Dirk news today and I'm like, I love it. I'm excited for it. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. But where's Bob? Like, is Bob still there? Is he still having, the power of that? And so I can't say that they're moving forward. There's still a world in which they promote Finley, they promote Jamal Mosley, and Haralabob's still in the same role. And we're like, well, how much
that's
is
not
different?
Progress to me.
Like how much is different, So
if all three of those are the same, the Mosley one I think could be progress, but the other two I'm not sure if those are progress, and especially with Haralabo there, right? Like
exactly. If that's the case. So for me, everything hinges on that. It's like until we have an answer on that, then it's like, okay, well, I don't know if we're moving forward or not.
Let's talk a little bit more about Dirk and his role, what he could possibly bring to the table. Let's talk about the odds from BetOnline to be the next coach, and then we'll get into the Kemba Walker trade. The Mavs, I mean, that could be the Mavs present right now, which is kind of interesting if you go back and play some revisionist history. But before we do, let's talk about RockAuto.com. Ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars. It's impossible to stock everything that you need in a chain store. So why would you wait so the counterman could order the parts on a computer? You can just do that yourself. Order the parts yourself. I went and I ordered a couch today. And I went to the store, and there's a couple of things that they can do for you that's a little special. But in the end, the guy just went on the computer and ordered the couch from the website. I could do that exact thing from my home. And that's how RockAuto.com works. You can do it. Go to RockAuto.com. Their catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate. You can just quickly see all the parts available just right in front of you. You can pick the one you want. Best of all, prices at RockAuto.com are always reliably low, and the same for professionals and do-it-yourselfers. Go to RockAuto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck and write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. All right, Isaac Harris, any more thoughts on Dirk Nowitzki and his role? What is he going to bring? What do you think those meetings are going to be? I would love to be a fly on the wall in some of these meetings and talking about where the team needs to go forward. I'm sure they're talking very bluntly about players and the situation with Porzingis and all that kind of stuff. I'm curious what Dirk is going to say about where the Mavericks are right now, what kind of coach they need, what kind of president of basketball operations they need. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, McMahon had a tweet today that I thought was very telling of, I'll just read it. He said, at Mark Cuban's request, Dirk Nowitzki, Michael Finley, and a select group of trusted longtime staffers met with him yesterday to discuss the franchise's path forward.
Who do we think is in there? Do we want to throw out some guesses?
Bobby Karalla.
Shouts to Bobby.
But no, it's like, because we're looking at right now saying, well, okay, well, who's making decisions right now? It's like, okay, well, let's just say Bob has moved to California. He's gone. He's done. Donnie's out. Rick's out. It's Finn. It's Mark Cuban, there's some other people.
You think the coaches are still there? Like Mosley can't be in these meetings, right?
Probably not at this point, but it's like, who's he trust the most? Because for so long, we've been talking about the big heads in these like decisions, right?
The figureheads.
It's Donnie, it's Rick, it's Mark. It's like those are three. And then, Dirk for a lot of the second half of his career, for the most part, probably longer than that. So it's like you had these four big people in the room over the past 3 years. Reliably has been in that apparently too. So now it's starting to get shaken up, right? Are we starting to see a new big four, big five start to form in Dallas where
it's shaking, not stirred, Isaac.
Yeah. But like, two people, left that. Dirk is coming back into it, it looks like, and allowing Dirk to speak into those decisions. Will Finley, I forgot to say Finley. Well, Finley's kind of moved up into the, big decision room too, the round table, I guess, however we want to say it. And it's kind of, they're starting to like form that new, who's in that new role, right? What's Finley's role if they go out and hire a Masai or a new GM? Like, what's his role moving forward? So I think just for Dirk, one, I think it is a great PR. I think it's excellent for the fans to know that there's a comfort in that. Like, okay, well, if however you feel like Cuban and Dirk's in the room, like, oh, okay, well, Dirk's here. So.
It's a Dirk is a blanket, man. Like even when he played,
I can go to work now.
He was just a blanket, just to come in and to just be the guy that, you knew you were going to be okay. You knew there was a baseline of where your team was going to be, how good your team was going to be, right? And I hope he's the same in that role.
Luka loves him, so we can't discredit that either. Of saying one guy that Luka loved is out. Okay, that wasn't Rick, by the way. I'm talking about Donnie. Donnie is out. And it's like that Luka's press conference in Slovenia, which was pre-scheduled and all that, all that stuff, that I think that did show a lot of people who question, when Spears talked about that and how he presented it was weird. It was off. He didn't
let's talk about it, because we haven't really gone into that. Mark Spears on ESPN had a quote that Luka is upset about this, and he's upset about Donnie Nelson.
Close with Donnie,
and he was really close with Donnie and all that kind of stuff. And so there was people on both sides that said, "Wow, that's bull crap." Like nothing. Like Mark Spears isn't one of the people that we've said to trust with everything on Mavericks stuff.
Yeah. But I kind of put him in that national thing. Like when we say the trust with Mavericks stuff, we're talking like McMahon, Cato, Brett, like all these like local guys. But if it's like a bigger,
it doesn't mean that somebody else can't be right about something, right? It doesn't mean that everything they say is completely wrong all the time. And so it seems like he got that right, and that Luka was, not necessarily upset, but like, dang, Donnie's gone. I've known Donnie since I was a kid, right? Basically scouting and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So
there was some validity to that story.
Yes. And Spears is connected to somebody that Luka is.
It's got to be Bill Duffy. It's got to be his agent, right?
There you go.
Come on, let's be real.
Yeah. So it's like it wasn't just a completely false thing that Spears was talking about. How he presented it's like Luka didn't just throw the presser to talk about Donnie. It wasn't. That was scheduled like a long time ago. But it did show fans that Luka was close with Donnie. He did like Donnie. And if you go off Brad's tweet, that said Luka didn't find out about the Donnie departure until basically we did, that kind of alarmed me too, because this is a guy that Luka trusts. This is a guy that Luka has seen with his own eyes since he was like 14 years old. And so for the past 8 years, he has known Donnie, and Donnie obviously bringing him to Dallas and all of that stuff. So that was a little alarming to me.
And that part, we argued about that before any of this happened, and I took the side and
off the podcast too.
Oh, was it off the podcast?
I think so.
Sometimes I can't remember what we talk about on a podcast and what we don't, but
some things I can remember.
You and I argued about this same thing. We're like, are they going to tell Luka? Would they tell Luka about stuff like this? And you were like, oh, absolutely. There's 100% that they would tell Luka, which you would think that they would do. But in my brain, I'm like, yeah, that would be the smart thing to do. But it doesn't seem like they're going to care what a 22-year-old said, even though he's the face of the franchise now. He's the best player. He's top 5 player in the NBA. I'm not sure they're going to care about what his opinion is on stuff like this. There's just bigger egos at play at this point in it. And so that being said, the way that this went down, Luka was not told until we were told basically that Donnie Nelson was going to leave. That's concerning. However, bringing in this team, I think yes, part of it may be PR, but it's not just Mark Cuban sitting on a desk, like trading cryptocurrency and then also like making these decisions by himself, right? Like sitting there eating a Built Bar, just trying to decide between Jamal Mosley, Becky Ham, and Terry Stotts, Jason Kidd, right? Like it's just not that guy sitting by himself. So I think that is a very positive thing that there is somebody. And there's a reason why that story came out. And the reason why they announced it was a very big story on Friday, that there's going to be this advisory team, because that's going to settle down some Mavs fans, and I think it should. I think it's good.
Yes, 100%. And if you're Luka and you're sitting there looking at it saying, okay, however we want to say it, I'm not saying anything about Luka and Mark's relationship, but like Mark did empower Haralabob, and if Luka doesn't like Haralabob, then
strike one. I think that's strike one for Cuban, right? Like maybe there's another one back there, but that'd be strike one for him.
And then he sees his guy and Donnie, gone. Well, he could
be strike two.
Well, he could be looking at it and just being like, well, dang, like the people who I like really trust. So then bam, insert Dirk into that. And it's like, okay, well, I know I love Dirk. And I don't think that's going to be the end of it. I think that we're going to, and rightfully so. I'm not saying just because of the situation. I think we see this with franchises, especially with their young stars. It's like, who can we get in here that we know our young star loves? And especially right now that there might be some tension. And this is where I firmly believe that JJ Barea will be on the coaching staff next year. It's like, what another nugget to slide over to Luka and be like,
hey, don't call him a nugget. That's not fun. That's not fair. You can't just call him a nugget.
What another thing to slide over to Luka and saying, okay, hey, we got Dirk in the special advisory role. What if Mosley's a go? We promoted Jamal Mosley. You're super close with him. Y'all have an amazing relationship. We brought JJ Barea on. Like all of those moves, Luka is like, let's go. Like he loves those guys. So I don't think it's stopping when it comes to with Dirk and the Luka presence. I think JJ Barea will be into that. And I think if Mosley does get the job in Dallas, his relationship with Luka will play a huge part in that.
That's going to be absolutely huge. Coming up, let's get into this a little bit more and then talk about the Kemba Walker trade. It was wild that came down. When it came down, it was like 8 in the morning that it happened. Yeah. Let's get into that coming up. But before we do, we just talked about Mark Cuban eating Built Bars. Maybe he eats Built Bars. Maybe he doesn't. He's a loyal listener of this podcast. Shout out Mark Cuban. But if he doesn't eat Built Bars, he should. They're a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. They're absolutely great. I eat one probably every day. I haven't had one today, but Cherry Barcia is a great one. Raspberry is a great one. Peanut Butter Brownie is great. You have the Mint Brownie, which is unbeatable, unless you can get your hands on the Coconut Brownie Chunk. Those are absolutely great. And they always come out with new flavors. You can check them out, BuiltBar.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off. They also have all kinds of other stuff. Like they have this immunity boost you can pour in water that's pretty good. They have this boost right now. They have a flavor Cloud 9. That one's pretty interesting. Apricot Pineapple. That one's interesting. And they always are coming out with new flavors, new stuff. They have Built Bites if you want a smaller one. If you don't want the whole thing, you can get that. They have Built Broth that you can get that's bringing in protein, that's healthy and natural. All kinds of good stuff with Built Bar. Use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off at BuiltBar.com. All right, Isaac Harris. So let's get into some of these odds quickly from Betonline.ag, one of our other partners. Again, promo code LOCKED on to get 50%. Welcome bonus. BetOnline. Jamal Mosley, the overwhelming favorite. 10. I don't even know how to read this odd. Like 10 of 11. Like I don't know. It's just such an overwhelming favorite. It's 6-1 for Becky Hammond, 6-1 for Terry Stotts, 8-1 for Jason Kidd.
Wait, real quick. I think it was McMahon who reported that his name was brought up in that meeting with Dirk and them, Jason Kidd.
And Tim McMahon used the word briefly on Twitter. Briefly, his name was brought up, which
it was very brief.
I'm taking my victory lap. I called this. Jason Kidd's name would be brought up for a PR stunt for Jason Kidd. Like they're doing him a solid. He's in the running, but he's not really in the running. This is Jason Kidd getting a look at this Mavericks job is Michael Scott getting a look at the corporate position when in the office when they were like, yeah, we'll bring him in and we'll take a look at him and we'll interview him, but we're really gonna hire one of these other guys. And they end up hiring Ryan. And then later in the deposition episode, they went back and they said, was Michael Scott seriously considered for the position? What do you want me to say? He's a nice guy, but no, he was not. He was not seriously considered. I think that's the Jason Kidd situation.
This was Dirk bringing it up, saying like, man, championship year is crazy. Who would have guessed Jason Kidd was a head coach now? And then that's the brief like mention.
Yeah, should we consider him? Yeah, maybe we should. No,
All right, let's move on.
Ime Udoka 9-1. John Calipari 9-1. That one's ridiculous. That one makes
Somebody
no sense.
tweeted at me, Coach K, and I almost blocked you because I honestly don't know what I would do. That would be I don't know.
Isaac Harris, the Tar Heel for life. Mike D'Antoni 9-1. Pablo Lasso 12-1. I don't even know who that is, to be honest. Maybe
that's Real Madrid's coach. He just signed a new contract.
There you go.
Though.
Okay,
I wouldn't expect him.
There you go. Yeah, I apologize for my
Ted
ignorance.
Lasso or
It's Ted's cousin. Chauncey Billups 14-1. Sam Cassell 14-1. Budenholzer 16-1, and Dirk 66-1. My mom texted me and said, "What about Dirk for coach?" And I was like, I don't think Dirk is ready for that coaching role yet. Now, we didn't know about Steve Nash, but at least Steve Nash was doing the, player development type role with the Warriors, and he was there with them. So at least he had that little bit of experience there.
There's one name on that list I tweeted about today. I've been telling Nick about this guy for a handful of years now, to where if Rick left and Donnie and everyone was still in place, there would be one name I would be saying every day on this podcast that I think will be mentioned, and that would have been Jay Wright. Because I just know for a fact how well regarded Jay Wright was with, I guess, now the previous regime. I don't know how much that relationship and love moves with everyone else still left. But they have they had a lot of Team USA connections with him. Jalen Brunson, obviously.
Yeah, right.
Sadiq Bey.
We got to move past this at some point.
But
no, it is not this day.
But it is not this day. But no.
Hey, a reference you understood that I made.
But no, I don't. I don't expect his name to be brought up now, just because new people are going to be making those decisions. It seems, but yeah, it looks like right now for a lot of people, it's Mosley or
the Field.
Yeah, or the Field, and we'll see how it plays out. But Cuban has been very, very adamant to Brad, to everybody, that we are hiring a GM first. And that's good. That's awesome. That's a good sign.
That's the way they should do it.
They're not mixing up the order in that and then letting that person go from there. So,
but what if they hire somebody and it's like Masai Ujiri or somebody, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Chauncey Billups, my guy."
Yeah.
Oh God, what would you do then? All right, let's get into the Kemba Walker trade now, unless you have anything else about coaches.
I will say this. I think if
they
do
say it.
Y'all know how much we love Jamal Mosley. I want him to as the head coach so bad. If they get him, if he is elevated to that role, then let's surround him with some experienced head coaches.
Sure, yeah.
Then let's bring in a Terry Stotts, right? I would love a Terry Stotts.
Exactly, Steve Nash in Brooklyn, right? Like
yes,
exactly
what they're doing, Steve Nash in Brooklyn. Let's do that here in Dallas.
Ty Lue in with the Clippers, even though Ty Lue had coached before, but.
Yeah, you look at Ty Lue's staff, it's like look at all these guys. Kenny Atkinson, I forgot he was even on his bench and stuff. So I would Terry Stotts would love him as a main assistant coach alongside Jamal Mosley. And there's some other guys in the league too. Man, bring them on as a lead assistant or another assistant, while still keeping all the other assistants, because I love our coaching staff. Also, Becky Hammond's really good friends with Coach Jenny, by the way.
Oh, yeah, Jenny Buchek. Or I was pronouncing her name wrong.
I thought you said it right.
Buchek, right? Jenny Buchek?
Yeah.
Becky Hammond, though, everyone keeps saying, "Oh, what about Becky Hammond for this job?" She's waiting around for the Spurs job, right? Like, let's be real. She's been with that team forever. She's waiting around for Pop to get old and leave. That's the next. That's
come on, Pop.
I don't know if maybe she cares about being the first female head coach, but and she may care about this specific job she's going to get more. All right, so OKC and Boston made a trade for two players that we've talked about and have been we've talked about and discussed hypothetically that they could be a trade for Porzingis if the Mavs went that direction. Kemba Walker, the 16th pick in this draft, the 2021 draft, and a 2025 second-round pick go to OKC. Boston gets Al Horford back, which is wild. The Sixers sent Al Horford to the Thunder and with a pick, like they had to attach a pick, and now the Thunder send Al Horford and get a pick back. Moses Brown, who destroyed the Mavs on the boards that one game, and almost everyone else in the league destroyed on the boards. Interesting young player. And a 2023 second-round pick. Interesting deal. Thoughts on Kemba? Because John Corrales had his initial Locked On Now reaction that we posted on Locked On Net on Twitter, which, by the way, go follow at Locked On Network on Twitter. Everybody, there's too many people listening that aren't following that. That's where we post all our national stuff. You'll get all good stuff all the time. He said that Kemba Walker won't play a single minute for the Thunder. And I was like, that's pretty interesting. At least Al Horford played a little bit.
Why are we saying that? Chris Paul played a whole year.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what Corrales thinks, that he's not gonna play a single minute for the Thunder. Now, Horford played a little bit, and then he stopped playing at some point during the season when they basically decided to cash it in, to throw in the towel, to rev the tank up, whatever they decided to do. What's your thoughts on Kemba? What's his future? Do they try to trade him again? Because I think that's definitely possible. They try to package him in something else and take back a big salary or something like that and get another draft pick.
I mean, I was kind of surprised his value was that low. Like, I mean, you knew it was low, but for them to attach the 16th overall pick, to not, I mean, Al Horford's not just it wasn't just
he's a serviceable player. He's not like a salary dump player at this point, but
he is. But it's not like they did it to send him to San Antonio and they didn't take money back. It's like they still absorbed a $30 million contract for this year, pretty much. And, then it was like $14 million guaranteed for that. So they saved like long-term money, but it wasn't to open up like big time cap spaces right now.
And Horford is like partially guaranteed in that last year. So there's still money on the books. Like they're really not, they're saving like 1 year, I think it's $37 million player option for Kemba. Like they're saving that amount of money, but for whatever the partial guarantee is, they're saving like $30 million for one season, like literally just one season. And can we point this out? Brad Stevens is now the president of basketball operations for the Celtics. He just coached Kemba Walker for like 2 years, and then he trades him like right away.
Like, I didn't want him anyway, Danny. So I'm.
Yeah, so Rick, if you come in and take the Celtics job, you won't have to worry about Kemba Walker because he was such a headache or whatever he thought. Like, wow, that's so crazy to think that.
I like the basketball fit for him because they get Al Horford. It's like they lose a vet in Kemba, they bring in a vet in Al Horford. They need more, front court help there anyway. I was just surprised that they gave up the 16th pick for that. Now, what happens with Kemba? Okay, let me just say this too. I've seen some Dallas fans who were like, why could we do this deal? Like, man, if we only had a front office. Guys, and to get the 16th overall pick, like Boston's trying to clear up money. Like KP's deal is longer than Kemba's. So if anybody had to attach a pick, it would have been Dallas if you really wanted Kemba. And so that wasn't even I didn't even see that as a consideration.
Asset management wise, I don't think that would happen. Not this specific deal.
Now, a year from now, I mean, what Sam Presti's doing is just brilliant. When you're in OKC, it's like, hey, just give me the big contract and give me a pick. Now they have 3 first-round picks in this upcoming draft, which is crazy to think about. All 3 of them will be in the top 16, right?
Their page, if you've ever been to Real GM, they have this future drafts by team list. It is the most insane looking thing.
It probably looks like a CVS receipt.
It does. It completely does. It is wild.
I'm really curious what OKC does. Do they do the Chris Paul thing and saying, hey, cool, do you want to
and these are listed, like these aren't listed like a single line. This is like,
this looks like one of my Bible commentaries from seminary.
That's a pick. This is a swap. So there are 3 picks this year, and then this is a pick. This is a pick. This is a pick. Like it's like 3 picks per year for the next couple of years here. That's wild.
But do they do the Al Horford thing with him to where they basically send him home? I just don't see that. Or will they do the Chris Paul thing and say, hey, we be a vet? But how long are they going to do that, right? How long is SGA going to be like, okay, cool. Like, I'm glad we keep on doing this, but like, am I always going to play alongside other point guards?
They're going to learn from Boston here because Boston waited way too long to cash in anything, right? They just kept their picks and they just kept drafting mediocre players in mid rounds. And I think they're going to learn from Boston and cash in some of these assets and take them all and trade like, I don't know, what could they trade 5 first-round picks for somebody? Right? Like once they actually get enough talent to become viable and they actually could be a playoff team.
Yeah, I think they still have to wait a little bit, right? I mean,
for sure.
They got to. I mean, we love SGA, but I don't know if he's a number 1 franchise cornerstone. They could get that over the next few drafts. Like could they get a Cade Cunningham, or could they get one of these top 5 guys is going to be credible. So it's like if a couple more drafts and a couple more young players. I mean, we know Poku is like in a league of his own, but a couple more cornerstone pieces, and then they got to figure their stuff out. I think they're still beginning, is what I'm saying.
On this trade with the Porzingis thing in mind, a listener on YouTube actually commented. It was a good YouTube comment, which, by the way, not many are good. Some of them are hilarious. But
what's wrong with my facial hair? Why y'all coming after me?
Also, people today were saying that you looked high, and they're like, "Oh, I like Isaac more now that he's high." I'm like, "No, he just has 2 kids under the age of 3."
And I was excited about a move that just happened.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You're like giddy. It was giddy more.
I'm sorry. I should have contained that a little bit more, guys.
Somebody on YouTube said it's kind of dumb to trade Porzingis before we see him with this new coach. Like, what if this new coach brings a system that's going to maximize Porzingis more, and then he looks good this season, and then his value goes up to where he's actually tradable and a viable trade piece for something else? Or you don't want to trade him because he's happy and he's playing well, right? Like, that could still happen. I still believe that they can make it work because it was fine, like, in the bubble, and that was a year ago, right? Like, it's not that far in the past that, this is a working relationship. It was good. Winning cures all things.
Yeah, well, and a lot of it has to do with where his mind's at too, right? I mean, if he's just completely like, get me out, like, we don't know. Yeah. Like, if he's in that spot, then that's different. But if he's like, man, I want to give this another shot, new head coach, new GM, like, new system, new everything, let's do this. Like, let's give it and he's motivated that way. It's like, sure, why not? Let's try this out. There's still like the best path forward is still KP being KP.
Yeah,
and
right.
We have 2 young, guys under 20, 25 and under that are amazing. So who knows? I mean, at this point, I think I would be a little surprised if he's traded before, the season starts, just because there's so much. Like, if Donnie and Rick were staying, I would have been like, okay, I think KP, there's a good chance, because something has to change, right? But now there's been so much change. I don't know if, like, does it still happen? And were we like, wow, it's insane? I wouldn't be like, man, that's the most insane thing, but I'm not expecting it over the offseason anymore.
No, there you go. That's your bonus pod. Bonus extra pod. We went a little longer than I even thought. There's just so much to get to. So there you go.
What a week.
What a week. Lemon, it's Wednesday. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.